Jake, there's so much I want to tell you, but we've always found it hard to talk to each other, haven't we? So I'll have to write to you instead. I remember when Rebecca and I first brought you home from the hospital. It was dark and it was snowing, and I'd never driven so carefully in my life. You were 2 days old and strapped in a carrier in the back seat, Rebecca dozing beside you, and every now and then I'd look in the rearview mirror to check that you were safe. Because you know what, Jake? I was absolutely fucking terrified. Driving home from the hospital, terrified of failing the child you love, years later that fear whispers through a new window. This is the whisper. I'm Zan, konnichiwa, aloha, buongiorno, and what's up? And welcome to another installment of the Spiraken Book Club, where we talk about various books. And this is book number 18 in our Project 45 by 45, where I read 45 books before I hit my 45th birthday. How are we going to do? Well, we're going to find out. But with that in mind, let's get to it, because this book that we're talking about is one which is pretty acclaimed. But does it hit that acclaim as well, especially for something which is a little more mysterious, a little more terrifying? Well, let's get to it, because the book that we're actually talking about is The Whisper Man. This is by Alex North, came out in 2019, and it is the story of a father and son, another father and son, and another father and son, all of them dealing with various things. Because this is the story of a man who loses his wife, and he decides to have a change of pace for him and his young son, and he moves to a small village. It would be very simple, very easy, somewhere where he can get away from the memories of his past life. Unfortunately, something horrible has happened in this town, and this leads to some truly horrific events. Or does it? Well, let's get to it. This is a book that has been acclaimed as being poignant, terrifying, working brilliantly, and something that will satisfy readers of Thomas Harris, Stephen King, and other amazing horror and thriller writers. But is it as good as it is? Well, kind of. Because, like I said, this is the story of a man who lost his wife and moves to a new town with his son. But also in this town, 20 years ago, there was a series of child disappearances by someone known as the Whisper Man. And now that he comes to town, things are restarting. Children are disappearing, and something malevolent may be in the area. Also, his son is talking to the air. Maybe he's crazy. Maybe he's talking to ghosts. We're not entirely sure, but this is a book which tries to sell itself as this truly horrific and horror story. I mean, one of the first major quotes that we have in this is one which is pretty universally known, which is courage is not the absence of fear, Pete knew. Courage requires fear. It's that you have to be afraid no matter what. If you want to be courageous, you have to be fearful of what it is. You have to be fearful of death. And this is that. And Pete is a detective who was the one who was researching the Whisper Man, captured the Whisper Man, but the Whisper Man got one over on him by the last victim never being found. And it's been kind of Pete's, I don't want to say his failure, but it's been his mission to find this kid years later, visiting the Whisper Man, Frank Carter, trying to discover what happened. And he's one of the many narrative points in this story, because the story goes from first person to third person, or third person to first person, depending on the mood. Because Tom is our first person narrator, but it's going to so many other characters who are in third person, so many other various beings that are there, and people that we have to go through their personal thoughts and their personal opinions on the situation. And it gets a little bogged down. And this leads to kind of a frustrating moment of trying to piece together what's going on, because while it is kind of captivating getting that when we talk about other people, it's third person, but it still feels like he's narrating their thoughts when he shouldn't be able to know it. Kind of confusing. However, digress. So, what about the overall mystery? What's going on? The children that are being kidnapped, the thriller moments of this, the person who is stalking Jake and Tom. Well, it is a little awesome. It is a little harrowing. It is a little dark, especially once it gets to the thriller part. However, There are 70 chapters in this entire book. It takes till chapter 51 for the harrowing part to actually begin. I mean, there's little elements here and there of the person stalking the children, what happens to some children, but it's not spooky. It's not scary. It's not, ah! It's not, I'm going to be up thinking about it. It is what it is. It's just kind of meh, honestly. And it has so many good moments about it because, like, when his son is starting to sing this rhyme, which no one's ever heard of, which is kind of horrifying, it kind of starts setting up like maybe there's something else going on. The rhyme of being, if you leave a door half open, soon you hear the whisper spoken. If you play outside alone, soon you won't be going home. It's a rhyme for the Whisper Man because the Whisper Man, the eponymous Whisper Man, would go to children's windows and whisper to them, and he'd kidnap them, and then the children would be found with their shirts over their head for reasons that we're not going to get into. It's a truly kind of disturbing element, and you have these moments of that, but then you have all this filler, which just takes its time and makes it kind of long-winded. And throughout this project, we've been reading a lot of books about fathers and sons, about the sins of the father, about the situations with the sons. And each one has been very different and varied. I mean, look at Deal of a Lifetime. It's a father who's admitting to his son that his son was right. There's that. Then, of course, we had going back to Mantis. Mantis is a father who's protecting his son no matter what. Then we have in Mapping the Interiors a son who's trying to figure out about his dad who's been dead for years. This one is about a father and son situation where the son kind of is dealing with a lot of stuff and he's pissed at his dad, but he loves his dad. Angered him and wants to be with him, but he's upset about him. At one point, they have a fight, and one of the more poignant quotes in the book is pretty much that there's this thing about going to sleep. It kind of scrubbed things, arguments, worries, whatever. You could be scared or upset about something, and you might think sleep was impossible, but at some point it happens. And when you wake up in the morning, that feeling is gone for a while, like a storm passed during the night. And you forgive the person that you're fighting with. And that is kind of how Jake is dealing with this situation. But also, Jake is a disturbed child. He has issues. He is clutching some items, which I'm not going to spoil anything for this because I don't want to spoil the mystery. So I'm being very vague with the actual content, unlike with some of the other reviews, because this is a mystery that you should read yourself. And a lot of people do like this, and I don't begrudge you for liking it if you do like this. It's just for me, I didn't love it. I didn't enjoy it. Like the last part is interesting and great. There are some twists which I called in the first chapter. I was like, okay, this has got to be this. And it was. Also, there is the death of a character that they spend a lot of time focusing on this character and then they kill him off. And it's done off screen and it feels like an afterthought where it's like, oh yeah, he's in the hospital, but yeah, he died. The end. And this is where they were building a large portion with it. So it's kind of rough. I don't want to be like, yeah, it's amazing, it's great. I want to talk so much about this and spoil it. But honestly, yeah. And going with some of the questions which were in the back of the book, one of the cool ones is, what do you think the book is saying about how we inherit characteristics from our parents, particularly our fathers? Is this inheritance inevitable? In this book, it focuses on that with so many characters who their fathers have traits that they end up absorbing. Just going into it, Tom is a writer, and his son is super imaginative, draws and things out of his box. Then you have Pete. Pete is someone who used to be um, a great imaginative, but then he became serious. His job took over his place, and his son is fearing for his own thoughts about him being a bad father because Pete was a bad father. And then you have another father whose father was a horrible human being, and he is starting to emulate his father unconsciously, even though he is lying to himself, saying, I'm going to be better than my father. I'm not going to do this. But he is doing the same things his father was doing. It's kind of, well, I don't want to say horrific, but yeah. So with that in mind, let's actually get to it. What is the rating for this? Did I like this? Did I hate this? What were my thoughts? Well, honestly, I gave this our second to lowest rating for The Whisper Man by Alex North, and it's technically a book, but better ideas exist. The whispers at the window promise terror, but what's on the other side is mostly just filler. There's been a lot of books I've read. I've read 18 books in the last 5 months. 18 books. None have made me want to fall asleep except this one. I was falling asleep after each chapter, essentially. I was fighting to stay up with this book. It was that. Well, actually, no, two books, because this and Air Affair. Those two had me falling asleep. But this one, it was supposed to be a thriller. I was supposed to be scared. I was supposed to be like, I can't go to sleep. It's unnerving. I was falling asleep until it hit 51. Once it hit 51, once that happened, then it was steamrolling, and I read the whole rest of the chapters quick. It was like almost like he finally figured out what he was writing. And Alex North is an acclaimed writer who's written a lot of books. The Shadow, I've heard, is amazing, but that's his sequel to this. Maybe he gets his point. However, it just let me know. Now, if you agree or disagree with me, let me know. You can email me personally at Xan, that's Xan at Spiraken.com. You could blue sky me. You could comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts for The Whisper Man. Did I not understand it? Was I missing something? Even though I was reading this book, am I just too jaded? Have I read too many screwed up things, read too many fucked up manga where my brain is like, nope, we're not dealing with this. We don't get scared anymore. What are your thoughts? Let me know. Leave a comment down below. Anyway, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for checking out this podcast, every email I get, every new membership, every new comment. It gives me more motivation to keep doing this. So I love doing this. I want to keep going until I'm an old man who reads books with the class. So thank you so much. And if you are watching and you do like this, remember to, as always, like, share, subscribe, and click on that bell for notification for when we release new episodes. We release new episodes 2 times a week on Mondays and Wednesdays, and we also have a couple of mini videos released throughout the week. But definitely join the conversation, and let me know your thoughts. And with that in mind, let's actually get to the next book. So book number 19, which is going to be my O book for this project. It is going to be The Memory Police. Now, I've heard a lot of good things about this. I've heard a lot of bad things about this. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? We're going to find out. I mean, it was The Memory Police or it was Age of Magic, which I've heard won an award for the worst sex scene ever, and it's hated. And after this, I need something a little more lighthearted. I might, when we go back to O, read that for number 44, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. As usual, I'm your host, Zan. I'm Gonzville. I'll catch you guys next time. And as always, keep reading books. I will see you later.